What's up guys, in this video we are going to make all these drawer boxes and drawer fronts. Super simple construction, plywood, MDF bottoms, try and keep it cheap, and a really easy construction method. So here we go. We're gonna make some shop drawers for all these cabinets here. We're not gonna make anything crazy. These are super simple drawer box to make and very sturdy. I've had these in all the shops that I've had. I've made boxes like this and they have lasted and never really broken down at all. So it's a pretty easy construction method, no crazy joinery, just honestly some glue and some nails. The bottoms will be sitting in a dado, and then I'll show you how I do the back piece. We'll measure for all these cabinets. So we're gonna make a lot of drawers. We're gonna do 3 drawers in each of these, 3 drawers in these, and then in this big one, I was thinking of doing 2 really big deep drawers for just some bigger items that I have that I don't really have a space for. Like I have some air hoses and some other things that don't get used all the time that it'd be nice to have a big drawer for them to go into. So these will be a little different. Same construction, but we'll use a thicker bottom on these giant drawers. So we'll measure for these and then we'll get to cutting. So I know I'll probably get asked. The backs on these are just that textured melamine stuff. It's 3/8. I had some left over, so I just use that for the backs on these boxes. You're never gonna see it because they're filled with, these are gonna be filled with drawers. So I'm using some undermount slides, and my measurement for those are with, my material I'm using is 5/8. So to measure for these particular slides, it's the opening minus 3/8, and that gives you your outside dimension of our drawer box. And then we're using 21-inch slides. Drawers will be 21 inches deep. So let's see what we've got here. We've got 30 inches, just double check. These should all be 30. Yep. We're gonna go 8.5 inches on these they'll be 8.5 inches tall. And then we just repeat the same thing here. The material we're using for these is this 5/8 pre-finished birch. It's pretty cheap, so I got it. This was actually the cheapest stuff they had at the lumber yard, but it's imported stuff. The core is not the best, but for what we're doing here, this is like perfect. So these were 52 or 53 bucks a sheet, which for pre-finished is cheap. And it's, like I said, perfect for shop stuff. I wanted the 5/8 material for the slides that we're using. And then for the bottoms, I just got some 1/4-inch MDF for the smaller drawers, which is gonna be fine for this. I'm not putting bricks and dumbbells in these drawers. There's not gonna be a lot of weight in them. So it'll, like I said, it'll be perfect for that. The 2 large drawers, I will get some 1/2-inch material out of the rack here and use 1/2-inch bottoms for those, because those are gonna be really large and I wanna put bigger items in there, heavier stuff. So we'll do that. All right, so the boring part is done. Got all my parts cut down to size. So now we're gonna cut a dado for the bottoms to sit in. I could have run all my dados in the long pieces before, but running long pieces and trying to keep even pressure is kind of a pain. So I just do it like this. I should probably get those Jessom hold down things for my fence. I've looked at those things tons of times to buy them, and I just never pulled the trigger on them. But I would like to get those, especially for cutting miters and stuff. It's got to be nice. But so yeah, gonna set this up to run a 1/4 inch dado. If I only had like a few pieces to run, or if I was only making a couple drawers, I would just leave this blade in and just do 2 passes. But since I have so much, it's easier to just take a minute and set up the dado blade, and that way I only have to do 1 pass. So for these drawer slides, I know that I need a 1/2 inch from the bottom of the drawer box to the start, or to the bottom, right, to the bottom of the drawer bottom. So I need to be 1/2 inch from here to this side of the blade. So we'll just set that, set at a 1/2 inch right here. And then since this is only 5/8 material, it's really like 5/8 light, I'm only gonna go in, I don't wanna go through this too deep, so I'm just gonna go like a 1/4 inch in, and that'll be plenty. So we'll run a test piece. I'll make sure that the groove is good for that 1/4 inch MDF. I might have to put a shim in between the 2 blades. So we'll run a test and see. All right, so here's my test piece. I will pull out one of these 1/4 inch pieces and see, and that's good. I'm good with that right there. Doesn't need to be too tight. That literally is pretty good right there. I'm happy with that. So I got all the dados cut, and these. If you remember, in the larger drawers, we're gonna do 1/2 inch bottoms. So I will make a second pass in these, but before I do that, I need to find some material in there, in the rack, some 1/2 inch material that I'm gonna use for the bottoms in these, so I can make sure that I get a good fit. So we'll go digging in the plywood rack. I don't really want to cut into a new sheet. Sweet. These 2 pieces right here will work. So this is 1/2 inch pre-finished plywood, which is always less than 1/2 inch. So yeah, 1/2 inch light. So we'll do another test cut on here, make sure that we get a nice fit for these. Here is my piece. Here's my test piece. And that is a pretty good fit right there, not too tight. All right, so now we can cut the dados, finish cutting the dados in these large pieces, and then we'll move on to the next step. We've got all our pieces cut, or dados and everything. Now we're going to take the dado blade out because we do not need it anymore. All right, so now I got my blade regular blade back in. So what I need to do now is my sides, I don't need to do anything to, and then the rest of my parts are my front and backs. So I'm gonna take half of my front and backs, and I'm gonna basically just cut this dado and the bottom of this off. And this is gonna be my back piece, the back of the drawer. So then it'll be three-sided, bottom will slide in, and then this piece will sit on top of the bottom in the back, and we'll nail it. It'll make more sense kind of when we put them, when we're assembling them, you'll understand a little bit more. But I could do this. I know this is like an extra step, cutting all the dados and then just cutting this piece off on your backs. But it only takes a couple minutes, and I find it easier to just make everything the same size and then do this rather than trying to figure out exactly what this piece would be. And then doing it this way, it literally will come out perfectly flush at the top in the back of the drawer. Yeah, I just like to do it like this. Like I said, one more extra step, but I think it's less confusing as you're making everything to not have so many different size parts, because I've done that in the past where I've made the back piece the different width and then came and cut dado in it, and then I had an unnecessary dado in there, and so I just find it easier to do it like this. Figure out my drawer bottoms. We basically have three different size drawers. So I'll put all my front and backs kind of over here. So I know all of my parts will be 20 and 5/8 deep, or all my drawer bottoms. So it's really just figuring out the front. So I take the front plus a 1/2 inch. We'll do the small ones first, just to kind of get into a groove here. Yellow glue, I've got this other glue, Rue glue. So Rue glue is just like, it's good for like non-porous surfaces, because the yellow glue on the pre-finish isn't really gonna work. So I'll use this on the butt joints where my box parts meets, and then I'll use the yellow glue in the dado for the MDF, because I am gonna glue that in as well. So I've got my front, and then my two sides, and all I'm gonna do is put a little bit of the Rue glue on that front joint. We're gonna do this, and we're just gonna nail it. I'm using 1¼ inch brad nails. No crazy joinery, like I said on these, just super simple. Now I'll take the yellow glue and just get it in that dado. Slide that in. So then my bottom piece, or my back piece, will come right in here and sit on top of the bottom. flip it. And then I'll nail the 1/4 inch bottom into my back piece. So the nice thing about doing it this way is because with these undermount slides, when I go to install these, if I ran my piece all the way down the back, I would have to cut a dado here for the slide, for a place for the slide to go. So doing it like this eliminates that step, which is kind of nice. And I think it's just a little bit easier to assemble like this. And this thing will be plenty strong, I promise. I know it's just nails and some glue, and not dovetails or screws or crazy joinery. But these are very strong for what they're gonna do. So yeah. And then I'll just throw a tape diagonal across and just make sure that we're nice and square, which we are, because that bottom is fitting there nice and tight, keeping everything nice and square. Drawers are assembled. I'm gonna put the slides in the boxes. So I've got a spacer here. So I've cut it so it'll go this way. I'll put that one, and I can turn it this way, put this one, and then the bottom one obviously just sits on the bottom of the box. The slides I'm using are these Gross. They're not the Dynapros. I honestly don't even remember the model number. They're soft close undermounts, but they're not really great. But I have a ton of them because a couple of years ago, when hardware was really hard to get, I was able to get a bunch of these for really cheap. And so, yeah, I have a ton of them, so that's why I'm gonna use these. And they're kind of weird because they get this bracket on the back. You have to put this thing on there, it just slides in, and then you can screw it in here and here. All right, so I literally just take the slide, stick it on top of my spacer here, and screw them in. I use for these are these little 5/8 AC screws. I think that's how you say it. It's ASSY, ASSY maybe. I don't know, but it's almost like a little Torx head, or yeah, but I like them because they stay in the bit like that. With the little 5/8 Phillips ones, you stick it in the back to reach and put drawer slides in or something, and they fall out. Like, even if it's magnetic, they'll do that. But these stay in there. Really nice. They're kind of expensive, but for the convenience of it, because these can be tedious to put in, especially when you have a ton of them, and when you're reaching back to screw this thing in and the screw's falling out, it's super annoying and frustrating. So these definitely are worth it to me. So all the drawer boxes are installed. So now I've got these locking devices that go on the back or on the bottom of the drawer box, and that's why the bottom is set down a 1/2 inch here, so that this can sit right up here in the front corner. And then when they sit on the drawers, the drawer side actually locks into this thing. And on nicer drawer slides, this is where you have your adjustability. You can go side to side, up and down, and some of them you can go front and back. So we'll get all these mounted, and then we have one more step. When we go to put them in, we have to drill a little hole here, because on the back of the actual slide there's an indicator pin that will go into that hole. And I used to have a jig for it, but I don't anymore, and I don't feel like making one, so I'll show you how we're gonna do that to mark where the actual hole goes. But I'll just get all these screwed in first. This jig to drill the hole in the back of the drawer box. So all I'm going to do is actually take the drawer, set it on the slides, and just give it a little tap back there in the bottom, and just leaves me a little mark right there, and that's where I'll drill my hole. So I've got this little block of wood that I just really like a collar, drill the hole through, and the drill bit sticks out about 3/8, and that's what I'll use to drill this hole, and that I won't go through the actual box. All right, so now, moment of truth. See if it fits, which should. Hear it click into the slides, and we're good. Step, well, almost last step. Cut the drawer fronts. I'm just going to use plywood, and then I'm going to route a little groove in the top for the pulls, and then I'll mount them, and then I'll be done. So we'll just measure these up real quick, and then, yeah. All of my drawer fronts here are cut, and I'm going to route a little scoop out of the front of this for my pull, so that'll be where you put your fingers to slide this thing open. So I've got this jig. I have literally a drawer over there filled with old jigs that I've made for whatever. I don't even remember what this one was for, but this is why I always like to save them. I did add a little piece because I didn't want this to be as deep, but I will just clamp this on here like this, and then take a router and route that out, and then we'll be good right there. So I've got this on. This is the back side of this drawer front, so I'll measure to the middle. Got 11 1/8. Just make sure my math is right. Yep. I've got a little mark on here at the center. So I'll just line that up. Reason I have this on the back, so I can just screw this right on. And then the router, I'm using this big router with this big flush cut bit, 1 1/8, and that's gonna give me, that's just gonna give me a nice little rounded corner here, and it'll give me a nice clean cut. All my drawer fronts got the little scoop. I just put a round over on everything with the router, and now I'm going to install these, keeping it very simple. I'm literally just going to nail it on where I want it to go, and then I'll screw it in from the back. Obviously, if this was a kitchen, I wouldn't be nailing them on. I would do it a little different, but I want to get this done, so we're just going to roll with it. So I've got these 1/8 inch spacers here. Just gonna use those. All right, that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, learned something. This is a ton of drawer space. These drawers are going to be great for storage. I will start organizing them and putting things away as I kind of keep moving forward here. I don't want to just throw a bunch of junk in here. I want to kind of get them organized. I'll probably put some labels on them with what's inside, but this is going to be great. Next, we will tackle this thing that I'm going to do up here, which I'm pretty excited about. So we'll get into that here within a few weeks. But we do have to get back to some client projects. So shop's going to get a good cleaning, and then we'll do a shop tour video now that it's pretty good. It's pretty, every corner is pretty much organized. This was the last section that I really wanted to get done. So we'll do a shop tour video and just go over the whole space. And then, yeah, that'll be, we are on Patreon. If you guys didn't know, the link will be down below if you'd like to join that. We do some more just weekly shop updates and stuff like that over there. I do want to shout out, we did have another new member this week, John Gates. So thank you, John, for joining and being a patron. Appreciate all the support. It is super helpful. Yeah, if you'd like to join, the link is down below. There's only one tier, right? That's all I really have time for. Eventually, I would like to get into like a monthly Zoom call and offer some more stuff. But for now, doing what we can. Trying to make videos and run the business is a pretty big task. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.